Welcome to our Zoom session today for closing the AI gap at LinearB. Just going to get us warmed up here for a second as folks get joined into the session. If you're new here, welcome. We're really excited to have you. We've been covering how AI has been impacting the SDLC for engineering leaders all year long. And this is another series of our exploration about what you can do to connect AI impact to ROI within your organization. So we're going to kick things off here in just a moment. But as you get in here, if this is your first time here, we have to blow up the chat with emojis before I start. It's legally required. It's part of my contract. So I really need everybody to be blowing up the chat with emojis because I have it actually on good authority that my co-host today, Dan Lyons, co-founder and COO of LinearB, he's powered by emojis. So I need you to drop like the strongest, most powered up emoji that you can think of into the chat. And I need to see that number down in the chat number get into the double, triple digits. I don't know what you need to do. Everyone has access to emojis. So we're going to blow up the chat as folks get in the door. And if you're just getting here, welcome, welcome. We're about to start our session today. We're going to cover in the next 30 minutes in part of a walkthrough of the AI measurement framework of LinearB, but also a hands-on dive into the LinearB app as well as an MCP demo. So folks, now that you're getting in through the door, you're blowing up the chat. I'm seeing more and more emojis. I know that my co-host is about to get ready to, power up here and guide us through what we're going to talk about. So looking at the main topics of our agenda today, we're going to start with that AI impact framework that I mentioned. We're going to walk through what it means on the quantitative and the qualitative side. Once we have that, we're going to dig into some metrics that matter. And we're going to do that with the lens of understanding the AI impact on your organization versus the human impact on your organization and being able to tell a credible story that really encapsulates how development is happening in your organization. Lastly, we're going to look at some MCP prompting using the LinearB data in our new MCP server, as well as some really cool, consistent prompts. And we're going to look at what kind of workflows you can put in place today to get impact with AI on your engineering workflows. So I think we've seen enough emojis. You got a lay of the land about what's about to happen. I'm going to turn it over to my co-host, Dan. Are you powered up? Are you ready to go?
I'm ready to rock, man. Let's
Okay,
do this.
amazing. I'm going to hand it off to you. Your turn.
Sounds good. Well, first of all, you told everyone my secret that I run on emojis, so hopefully we're getting hundreds of them in there now. I'm going to start out, and of course, we're going to talk about a philosophy of how to measure AI, and we're going to look into a demo like Andrew just said. But I want to start with the adoption journey. So I'm working with a lot of customers in our community. And for most engineering organizations, especially the larger ones, if you're coming from a larger like enterprise organization, there's a wide range of AI adoption. And if we talk about the extremes for a second, you have that developer that's kind of full out with AI code gen, vibe coding, probably creating some large pull requests, likely to have a lot of rework needed on that PR or post PR creation. And on the other extreme, you probably have some either dissenters or like pushback. Could be a senior developer, not always, but maybe someone that's been in the industry for a while, wants to stay away from AI. Even on the innovative parts, and that's usually where I see a lot of this being done, like going from 0 to 1 or an experiment. And so you have these two extremes. And the mindset that we like to take or we like to broadcast is that it's a marathon. It's not a race. It's going to take some time to get everyone to a productive center. So just keep that in mind as you start measuring AI. And the other thing about measuring AI is there's a lot of different maybe philosophies of how to do it. And I do see a lot of mistakes that are being made. So I want to make sure no one on this webinar is making any mistakes. What we see work really well is stick to true signals like throughput and quality. And these are some of the classic, engineering productivity measurements or metrics. When you think about throughput, you can think about PRs merged and cycle time and being really efficient. But of course, I think most of us know if you just have a lot of throughput and you're just like cranking out a ton of code, but the quality is low, well, that is going to actually make your throughput lower. It's actually going to be a worse result. So you got to balance that out with quality. So quality drives throughput. And it's a balancing act between these two, throughput and quality. That's our philosophy, some of the basics of how to measure. Now, the other thing that I want to call out here is there's going to be a temptation to maybe talk about ROI, return on an investment, in terms of like dollars, for example. Like your CFO, CEO might say, okay, we're spending a ton of money on this AI stuff. How much money are we making back? That's usually a bad move. Don't go down that route. We're going to show you some metrics and some of the ways to measure that you can go down, but I haven't seen great things happen there. And the other thing is around hours. Now, sometimes it's okay to talk hours, like hours reinvested. I've seen that. But if you start talking about maybe like hours return or hours taken back, you could also get into a situation where your CEO, board, someone saying, hey, I mean, 25% hours saving, maybe we should remove 25% of the engineering workforce. And you don't want to go down that route either. So stick to throughput, stick to quality. These are some true signals. Now, at LinearB, we do have an AI measurement framework. I think it's a great framework. And there's kind of two aspects to this, or two measurement principles. On the left-hand side, you have adoption, and the right-hand side, you have impact. So when you think about adoption, you're thinking about usage. When you're thinking about impact, you're thinking about what's the real value of all these AI tools? What has it done for us or not done for us? And if you look at it through these two lenses, I think you'll be in a great situation to not only explain what's happening, but to take action on it. And we'll dive into this a little bit. Andrew's going to demo all of this, so stay on. That's probably the most interesting part of this whole show. Just another reminder, track value delivered, not hours eliminated. We talked about this. Now, on the adoption side, think about quantitative metrics and qualitative feedback. So quantitative, with the AI tools, there's a lot of APIs out there. There's a lot of other ways to track adoption. But the way that I like to think about this the most is, hey, we spend a lot of money. Let's say it's on a Copilot, a cursor, something in the code gen area. Who's actually using it? Or is anyone using it? Or what departments are using it, or business units or teams? And not only who is using it, but what's the behavior around the usage? Is it something very, very shallow, or is it something a little bit more committal or heavy, like actually accepting commits, or their rule files for Cursor and Copilot? Are you even using something more like a Devin, where there's PR authors? The AI is actually creating a PR. That's a little higher level usage. And of course, when you're looking at like the LinearB AI code review, or any of these like other code review tools, it's also how much of the SDLC is actually AI driven. Is it just that code generation area, or is there test generation, documentation, something else in the SDLC? So that's how we think about the quantitative. Again, we're going to show all this. And on the qualitative side, you can use something like a survey to start asking, hey, are you actually using any of the AI tools that we purchase? Which ones are you using? How often? And a way to kind of ask how often. We have a survey that does all of this. How to ask how often. Is it into a workflow? Is it into a daily workflow, a weekly workflow? And you're going to get a good sentiment around it. So you combine the quantitative and the qualitative, and that's a good way to measure adoption. Now, as we said before, it's not good enough just to measure adoption, because we don't know what the impact is. Again, you spend all of this money. Hopefully, you're getting some good usage. Maybe you're getting into some daily usage, but what's the impact of it? Again, that's where we come back to a quantitative view and a qualitative view. So on the quantitative side, there's a bunch of metrics that you can use that actually will measure the impact. I listed just a few here. We're going to go over some of these. But think about throughput. On throughput, one metric that I see a lot of people use is merge frequency. You would expect probably from your AI initiative or whatever you promise with productivity, yeah, we're going to do more work. We're going to do things faster. Well, merge frequency is a good one to look at. On the quality side, always got to balance out. Quality is maybe even most important to make sure that value is getting through. One metric that you could look at is like a rework rate. Are we having to redo code after we deliver it through like an AI bot or an AI assistant? Also, PR size, that's another one that I really like. And on the value side, this is what your business is actually looking for. Are you actually delivering more value more frequently? But I like to say, hey, are you being more predictable? Is the engineering organization actually more predictable after we started using some of these AI tools? And when I say predictability, we're looking at something like a planning accuracy to say, hey, are we delivering our sprints on time? Is our Kanban throughput good? That type of thing. Now, one thing I do want to highlight on the quantitative side, it's really, really important when you're looking at these metrics to do a comparison, to have comparison trends. So when I say comparison, you should be able to do something like, hey, here's our throughput when AI assistance is happening. Here's our throughput when it's not happening. Which one is better? Is there actually anything significant difference? Same thing for quality. Here's our rework rate when there's a high amount of AI assistance. Here's our rework rate when it's fully human driven. So comparing is very, very important. Now, on the qualitative side, again, it's always good to balance the quantitative with the qualitative, but you can send out a survey, you can use a survey, and those questions need to be more so around AI tooling the effectiveness sentiment or the perceived impact. Usually, questions that are more so on the impact side are like, have you been able to replace a routine that you would normally do manually with the AI tools that we purchase? That would be good impact. I now have AI doing something that I used to have to do myself. So these are just a few different ways to measure impact. And let's get, I think, to the exciting portion
Great.
of this session. Andrew, I'm going to stop sharing here. I'm going to send
Sounds
it back
perfect.
over to you.
Share my screen. All right, I'm going to drop us right into the LinearB platform. Today's a workshop, like Dan said, so we're going to show you how it's done and actually look at what applying that measurement framework looks like within the LinearB app. So I've dropped us in to the LinearB platform for a demo account that we're going to walk through here, and I put us on the AI Insights dashboard. And our journey today in the app is going to start here because we can really understand a lot about AI adoption and impact through these three different lenses. Starting here at the top with the AI adoption, this is looking at the different tools that are actually your developers are using. And we collect this information using a variety of ways because, as you know, if your teams have been experimenting with these tools, they have a variety of different outputs and metadata and API consistencies, right? LinearB collects that information and puts it here in a way where you can see at a very high level glance the distribution across commits, review comments, and even creating new work as PR authors from these different agents and AI tools within your ecosystem. You can also toggle here. I love doing this and being able to see that impact versus your traditional human-based impact, your manual commits and such. And this helps you see the growth and change of these tools over time. And starting here at tool adoption and then walking down into the AI rule files lets you get a deeper understanding
Hey,
of how
Andrew,
the
just one thing that I'm seeing in the chat. I don't know if it's possible.
yeah.
I know you're in a good flow. Is it possible to zoom in just
Oh,
because the resolution is so high?
how's that? Is that better? Can we see more?
It's probably better. It looks
Okay.
better for me. Someone can just comment if you can see it better, but I'm gonna keep
Okay,
flowing.
great.
Much better.
Draw some more
Much
eyeball
better.
emojis in the chat if you need me
Yeah,
to zoom. I'm more than happy to zoom, break it up if y'all can't see anything. And when we move
I
the
think it's
clock,
much. Yeah,
same deal.
looks
All
good.
right, perfect. So once again, we're looking at the distribution of these tools within your actual your engineering workflows. But going down into your AI rule files, this is where you get a deeper look at how these tools are more widely being used by your team. And why I want to stop here and call this out is because understanding that how many repos your org has, maybe you have a dozen, maybe you have 100, maybe you have 1,000, understanding which of those actually have information checked into the repos that allow the agents to act consistently. We're talking about cursor rule files, a Claude agent.md. We're talking about the actual shared markdown and instruction files that these tools use. That way you get consistent outputs from your different engineers and their different teams' outputs are consistent with each other. This is important for understanding in comparison with obviously how much the tool is used, how fine-tuned it is for the shape of your organization. Because when we look later at more comparisons of what AI generated or AI impacted code looks like versus non, it would be helpful to understand, hey, was there a shared instruction in place? So right out of the box, we're equipping you with like that high level understanding of the maturity within your org. And the last thing here that I really want to call out is the AI tool usage. And this is looking at how many of your engineers are actually using these tools distributed by the type, but also at what percentage they are accepting the code output. And this helps you get a general sense of how much AI generated code is flowing into your code base through the tool users. But this itself is just one side of that problem. We're going to be able to look at this closer by going into a metrics dashboard and comparing things like the rework rate and the refactor rate. When this code is generated and then it's merged into your code base, what happens to it later? LinearB is really well equipped to tell this story, and this represents just one view into those kinds of insights. So to go and dig at those, we can actually just click here to go into the dashboard. And once it loads, I'm going to make sure that we have the last month available. So for GitHub Copilot, we can see our code acceptance rate, our adoption rate, and we can see this over time. And you get a wider distribution of how this tool has been used within your organization. And you can also organize this by team. So starting at the top on the actual like tool-based dashboards, it's important to then go deeper and understand once this code is in your code base, how is it performing compared to other tools? So for example, if I were to compare this by PR label and then filter it by GitHub Copilot, going back to the example from before, this is going to show things like your rework rate and your refactor rate of your code base baseline. Like this is all of your code that's flowing into your code base and tracked by LinearB versus, in this case, GitHub Copilot, because LinearB has been labeling those code PRs that are impacted by this tool to understand its adoption, but also to understand its impact. And by understanding, oh, if the rework rate is going down, meaning that less code is getting completely rewritten later, it indicates a higher alignment with your actual the desired goals in using the team. But if your refactor rate is, spiking up in the usage of this tool, and perhaps going back to the AI Insights dashboard, there aren't consistent rule files or ways in which developers are using the tool in the same way, this could indicate a disconnect in the ability to use the tool and its output on your engineering. So looking at this comparison side by side, it lets you draw deeper conclusions using quantitative metrics. But what if we wanted to compare this with actual stories and understanding from the day-to-day developers? This goes into our or into our surveys offering, which Dan touched on as well, which is very important for understanding the impact and usage of these tools. So here's an AI and productivity survey that we ran that collects those same insights. And for the sake of this discussion, I'm going to focus on the lower performing boxes and categories for all of my teams. And two of them that jump out to me immediately upon landing on the survey data is AI assisted development has a low sentiment score from the developers when they responded in our most recent survey. So knowing the things that we looked at earlier, the tool coverage, how much of them had rules, and then also things like the rework and the refactor rate once they were going into the organization. Let's click in here and get deeper insights about what our engineers are actually saying and providing feedback on in regards to that problem. I can take a deeper dive into these problem sets and understand on a question by question level where the blockers are. Maybe it's around uncertainty around security. Maybe it's around uncertainty around confidence in even using the tool. Maybe there's an ability to flag an upskilling opportunity for the broader organization, or to have a conversation about some of these sticking points that are shaping the skeptics versus the embracers of your organization. So if you have a high acceptance rate and your code quality issue is also impacted, then this allows you to look deeper at why and how they accept that code, and have a better conversation with your developers about how this tool is impacting their day-to-day work. So, looking at the actual AI survey and the metrics and the shape of the AI impact in your organization in LinearB, there's a lot of different charts and graphs that provide that available to you, right? But what if you just have a hypothesis, or you're trying to prove a deeper experiment within your organization? Or what if you need deeper bespoke reporting in specialized ways? These are real needs that pop up as you run an engineering organization and you're trying to get a deeper look on specific problems. So allow developers and engineering leaders to get that information, I want to dive into the LinearB MCP server and give you a glimpse at how you could talk with and use the same data, the same metric data from LinearB in a conversational way in Claude. And this is through MCP, or the Model Context Protocol, which LinearB has an MCP server offering for. This connects your LinearB API data to conversations in Claude. And the abilities of doing things out of this box are really quite interesting, because LinearB, zooming in here to make sure everyone can see, it includes PR reports, or rather, excuse me, it includes prompts for each of these different types of things out of the box that you might want to ask. And these prompts are actually turbocharged with formatting built in. So all they're going to do is ask, in this case, an example of a team name, and you can see how much information is getting provided here into creating a consistent output. The reason that I call this out is because we're not just connecting the LinearB data into a chat and then asking it for inputs. You certainly could do so, but by actually using a structured prompt that has a way of drawing a Claude artifact that's repeatable, you can actually create these really great artifacts in Claude that are consistent and allow you to do dashboard reporting that's bespoke to you and the needs of your team. So this is an actual output that I'm getting in Claude. It's consistent in this format every single time, and based upon my LinearB data that we just talked about and saw. And this format is driven by the prompt that I provided it here, that same one that I showed you from the LinearB MCP server. And all it did in this case was query the data that was available using the LinearB MCP server to gather all the information on the fly. And then it created this really great Claude artifact. And this is just a starting point. There's several different prompts that are included in this tool, because we see the power of being able to create this bespoke reporting on the fly. And just by using one of them as a starting point, it's extremely easy to customize and include information. So this is one for lead time. Here's another one I did for merge rate for a different team. You can jump in and see, once again, a consistent artifact that shows me that information that I'm looking for. These are also linked with to the PRs, to deeper dives on these users within LinearB, because it has access to all of that information through of the API. And the really great part about this is that MCP is just an ingredient. I want you to think of this as a building block as you and your engineering org build with AI in ways that not only ship software better and safer in your IDE, but also in your entire downstream process of bringing that code to production. That means having AI in your platforms and surfacing insights where it matters most, because this MCP server could be combined with workflows and automations. If you have Zaps and Zapier, those AI tools could grab this MCP survey and put together a prompt for you and drop it into your Slack or your email every day, almost like a cron job, right? And so think of this as a building block that could be used to construct higher level reporting and get a deeper look at those that information that we've been covering today in the platform. So I hope that this has inspired you a little bit to play around with these tools. It's really interesting to see what MCP can do, and now it can combine with your LinearB data and walk us through some of the remaining points now that we've seen it in action. I'm going to hand it back over to you, Dan. Thanks so much.
Awesome job. Great demo, Andrew. I'm going to just share my screen again here. We're coming up towards the end of the session here, and maybe only 2 more slides. But I just want to give a reminder that after you have all of that measure information that Andrew just showed, I don't want people to forget that taking action is really even most important. And that's what I've seen our best customers do. And it's not only taking action by like buying a bunch of Copilot licenses, or maybe they've given them out for free. There's other areas of the SDLC that we can deploy AI. So a few here just that LinearB are offering. Of course, AI code reviews. Once the PR is up, there's really powerful stuff that you can do now to take that type of work off a developer's plate. Also, combine that with AI PR descriptions, make sure that there's good standardization. All of this is done right now with Gitstream. On the AI insights side, Andrew was showing a lot of this, but the MCP server, again, that's really where you can answer any question to your heart's desire, build dashboards, build reports, make it work for you, make sure everyone has insights coming out of the metrics. Sometimes metrics are a little difficult to get an insight from. Go get your insights there. And then also think about areas that are even outside of coding. So we have something like the AI iteration retro summary, just gives a retro at the end of each sprint. So you don't have to do all of that work, get ready for that retro meeting. So the message here is take action outside of just the code generation area for your SDLC. Now, for those of you who were at ELC last week, we were at ELC, the Engineering Leadership Conference. This was in San Francisco. So if we saw you there, awesome. If you didn't, maybe you go next year. We had one of our customers, Expedia, present. This is their slide. They deployed a bunch of the automations that I was just showing there. They have 3 million automations run. They have a bunch of PRs that are now automated with code review, 200K plus, that type of thing. They do talk about dev hours, but from a reinvested standpoint, after deploying these automations, they've been able to reinvest 2K hours per month, large enterprise organization. And when they're talking about reinvestment, it's more like, what did we do to be able to accelerate our product delivery roadmap? So lots of good things coming out of taking action. And I think that's all we have for you today. So Andrew and I just want to say thank you to everyone. I see the chat, lots of questions and being answered there. Of course, all of this is available for you. I'm sure we'll send out the links. And yeah, Andrew, if you want to sign off with anything, again, thank you from my side.
No, yeah, thank you everybody for joining us, and we'll definitely see you at the next one. Also, be sure to check out the guide that's included in this webinar, along with the recording that we're going to be sending to you for a deeper dive. And be sure to connect with Dan and I on socials, LinkedIn for sure. We want to hear how this is impacting you and get closer to your story. So thanks so much for giving us some of your time today, and we'll see you at the next one.